Let us prepare ourselves. If you put your hand over your eyes, I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
And now, over your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today.
I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today.
And now, over your heart, and just extend out your arms. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that nothing that is real can ever be taken from you. Nothing that is real can ever be taken from you. The demonstrations of that which is real can be taken from you. But nothing that's real can ever be taken from you. Your boyfriend, you may lose your boyfriend, but you will never lose love. You may lose your house, but you will never lose abundance. You may lose your job, but you will never lose creativity. You may even lose a limb, but you will never lose wholeness. That which is within you that is real can never be taken from you. Now, I want to be careful with this because, you know, the demonstrations that are real of that which is real, when they're taken from us, it's time to grieve. It's time to be sorrowful, but to also know that we have so much more that is inside of us. The whole idea of impermanent conditions, and that's what those things are. Jobs are conditions, boyfriends are conditions, houses are conditions. All of those things, those people, places, and things which are conditions in our lives are impermanent. But you have something within you that is absolutely permanent. That's a foundational Buddhist teaching, that conditions are impermanent. It's also a foundational religious science teaching that conditions are impermanent. And today we're beginning to celebrate the light that you are through the many paths to God. You know, that's one of the missions in our mission statement, is to celebrate all paths to God. And so in December, we kind of formalize that. Oftentimes, I bring in other paths through my talks, but they're almost always about science of mind and the principles, spiritual principles. But this month of December, we actually formalize this looking at other paths. We start today with the Buddhist path, and next week we're going to go on to the Jewish path through the celebration of the light that you are through Hanukkah. And then we'll move into the Wiccan tradition. And from there we'll go into Christmas. And from there we'll move into the African American cultural holiday of Kwanzaa. All of them have tremendous nourishment for us. And what we want to remember is there's nothing new in New Thought. All of New Thought is simply a different perspective of all of these teachings that we have right here. Today, and what I want us to remember is we're not trying to be any of these things. I'm going to look at them through religious science eyes. We're going to borrow from their nourishment to feed our souls. But we are not trying to be any of these paths. I want to start today with a blessing. We always do a blessing of the altar. I want to thank Rosemary Mayfield for creating all of these altars. I want to thank Kay Brush and Kathy Baldridge for decorating this beautiful tree. So today we're going to do this blessing. And if you will, it's an ancient Tibetan blessing, and if you will repeat after me. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. And now we're going to switch it up and say you. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be happy. Amen. Today we're going to be looking at the celebration of the Buddhist holiday called Bodhi Day, which is the day of enlightenment of the Buddha. Now, we want to be careful here. Buddha did not become enlightened in one day, and you and I won't become enlightened in one day either. It took a while for that to happen, and it will take a while for us to get on that page as well. It started with the Buddha called Siddhartha, who had a calling in his soul. His soul was saying, isn't there something more than what I'm experiencing right now? And throughout our lives, we will have that call from time to time. Isn't there something more to this thing called life? Now, in Siddhartha's case, he wasn't talking about, new chariots and upgraded chariots or mansions or castles or vacations wherever he wanted to go. He wasn't talking about any of that because he already had that. He already had those things. He knew that things didn't make a person happy. He wanted something more to fill his soul. We know in religious science, things won't make us happy. The absence of things will make us sad, but things themselves won't make us happy. We want you to have whatever things you want in this life, but we want you to also know that that's not where your happiness will come from those things. It will come from a deeper calling it comes from your feelings. That's what makes you happy. Things don't make you happy. Your feelings make you happy. That's why we say when you wake up in the morning, your consciousness determines whether you will be happy or sad. Not whether you have a new washing machine. It's your consciousness, your feelings about your life, not people, places, and things. Well, I want to make sure we're all on the same page about enlightenment, what it means. And I'm going to use a very Buddhist definition of enlightenment. We can find many paths that will talk about it in different ways. But I like this one, and today, because we're talking about Buddhism, we're going to use that one. And it's this. Enlightenment is the process of peeling back the many layers of ego to experience your true self. That's what enlightenment is. Peeling back the many layers of ego so that you can figure out who you really are and bring that to the planet, to let that light shine on the planet. I have a theory. It's not been tested. It's never been written down anywhere. It hasn't been studied. It's just what I've dreamed up in my head. And that is, I think for many of us, our subconscious doesn't like to think we might become enlightened. I think we sort of push enlightenment back because we think it's boring. We think enlightenment is, I see how hard Jesus worked to teach us, I see how hard Buddha worked to teach us. See, I don't want to work that hard after I become enlightened. I still want to, dance. I still want to tell dirty jokes. I still want to buy a Ferrari. Jesus never bought a Ferrari. I just want to do those things. Enlightened people don't do those things, but they do. They do. It doesn't have anything to do with the things in life, with what makes you happy. Enlightenment is just about uncovering who God sent you here to be. And you already have a glimmer of who God sent you here to be through your desires. Those are wonderful things that we have in our life. So it's not a boring thing. Until we get to that place, in the meantime, until we get to that place where we become enlightened and we become familiar with it, we have to know that underneath all of it is an enlightened soul. It's what's underneath all of it. All those excuses, all those stories you tell each other, all those "he did me wrong" songs, all those, under all of that is an enlightened being called you. See, it's not a matter of adding more stuff to us. It's a matter of subtracting from us. When we got here on the planet, we came here fairly pure, and then stuff got attached to us thoughts got attached to us. Beliefs got attached to us. And a lot of the times we didn't even ask for those beliefs. They just became attached to us. Just for the process of living this life in this time and in this culture. So here is the thing. CSA is not about just telling you the truth. It's also about trying to get to it in our own lives. It's about how do we, not are we enlightened underneath? That's great. But how do we get to that enlightenment underneath? CSA, we don't care how much scripture you can spout, whether it's from the Bhagavad Gita or the Sutras or the the New Testament or the Quran. We don't care about that. What we care about is how do you co-create a life of fulfillment and enlightenment. That's what we care about at CSA. So I'm going to talk about 4 little spiritual practices. Now remember, I could have talked about 104 spiritual practices today, but we don't have time. So I'm just going to go through 4, knowing it's not the end all and be all. And when you do these 4 spiritual practices, you won't become enlightened. You will be on your way to enlightenment. Okay? The first one is get comfortable committing yourself and believing that we live in a friendly universe. That's hard to do, but we live in a friendly universe. You cannot have enemies and be enlightened. It's not possible. 90% of the meanness on this planet would go away if we could commit ourselves to the understanding that we live in a friendly universe. If we didn't walk up with such defenses to people, if we walked up with the energy and the vibration that I like you and you like me. Now that's not easy to do here, but we have to stand for that truth. We have to stand for that truth even in the face of contradictory information. We have to say we know the truth. We see what's happening, but we know the truth. And we're going to act from that place of spiritual truth, that I live in a friendly universe, and that you like me, and that I like you. See, whether that's our family or our workplace, wherever it is, and it's not easy to do because of all the shootings that have been happening right recently to people of color by white policemen. It's not easy to stay out of us and them thinking. By all the talking heads on cable TV, we get into that us and them concepts. And I've been there this week. I've been in the us and the them thinking. But our spiritual obligation, that which we're called to do in ourselves, is to understand that there is a bigger truth at play here and to develop the spiritual maturity to stand up for ourselves, to protest, to say to anybody, you can't treat me any less than the Buddha. You can't treat me any less than the Christ. To stand up and to say that with love. And that's the difficult challenge. That's the hard thing for us to do. And when one of us can't do it, another stands in that place and does it for us in our life. See, when we get into us and them thinking, we have forgotten the one powerful belief that we have in this church, and that is oneness, and that is love. Love is the answer to what's going on right now. Oneness is the answer to what's going on right now. I have a new name for them, and that's pre-conscious me. That's what that is. The new them in my life is the pre-conscious me. Because every single person in this room has done something to another person to make them feel less than so we could feel better. There's not one person in this room who hasn't at some point in our life, maybe it's not through maybe it's not through the pathology of racism or homophobia or any of the isms. Maybe it's just one-on-one in our family that we have made ourselves better, making somebody else feel less than. We were pre-conscious when we were doing that. And that's what's happening on the planet today. A lot of what we believe and act out of in terms of meanness, of us and them thinking, really came to us, like I say, before we asked for it. It came to us by somebody who isn't even alive anymore. It was a behavior that we learned from people who are gone from our life, either through death or through some other means. But we've held on to their beliefs, and we've acted out of their beliefs. I want to read to you a little thing that Alan Cohen wrote in one of his books. I know a man who at age 72 is still trying to please his 95-year-old mother. I have also worked in seminars with many people who are trying to earn the approval of parents who are long dead. Authority figures, you see, live not in their bodies but in your brain. It is said it is impossible to defeat an enemy who has an outpost in your head. See, that's where our enemies lie. When we say we can't be enlightened and still have enemies, where we work to remove the enemies is in our head, and often they were planted there by somebody else. Your enemies are not your dysfunctional parents, childhood sexual abuser, punitive parochial school teacher. Your enemies are your thoughts, and they are instilled in you through what you believe. It doesn't matter if your authority figures are living or dead, right or wrong, nasty or transformed. Their influence exerts itself through your agreement with it, right beside your power to remove it. Let's get one fact straight now. You will never, 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 ever, ever, never, 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 ever, never get anyone's approval all the time. Jesus didn't do it, nor did Gandhi or Princess Diana. Even very good people could not get everyone to like them. No one has ever liked you, and no one ever has, and you won't be the first. You won't be able to get anyone to like any one thing you do, and you won't get any one person to like everything you do. So give up your quest for universal admiration right now. It is never ending, infinitely frustrating, and it sucks. If you're ever going to receive the approval you seek, it's going to have to come from you. So getting rid of the enemies in our head means getting rid of those influencers in our head as well. The best way to proactively become one with one another, and this church does a very good job, and we're going to continue to find ways to do an even better job, is for people who are not like other people to start talking to each other. Not in superficial stuff, but in hard conversation. In saying, what is your life like? This is what my life is like. And to begin to talk about it with one another in real, authentic ways. The second spiritual practice that I want to talk about this morning is, in order to be enlightened, you have to surrender. You have to surrender. I read a book recently called The 25 Words That Saved My Life. It's about the serenity prayer. And in it, the author says, the secret handshake of life is surrender. The secret handshake of life is surrender. So many of us run around trying to find the secret handshake of life, don't we? If I just could unlock that secret handshake, I'd be okay. I'd be successful. The secret handshake of life is surrender. And we're not talking about surrendering to a man in the sky or a woman in the sky named God. We're talking about surrendering to universal love, to infinite wisdom in our life. See, the God of our understanding in this church, it does not want your personal power. It does not want you to give your personal power over to the God of our understanding. It wants you to keep it and infuse it with love, and infuse your personal power with wisdom. Surrender means this. It means finding the rhythm in life. Finding the rhythm in life. You know, Lao Tzu says this, the great Taoist, he says this: we are always either emerging, flourishing, or dissolving. We are always either emerging, flourishing, or dissolving. See, if we were to find out where now we're not just one of those things in life, but in every project, maybe your marriage is in a time of flourishing, or maybe it's in a time of dissolving, or maybe you just fell in love and it's a time of emerging, but maybe your business is in another state. But find out where you are. That's becoming aware. We named this the Center for Spiritual Awareness for a reason. If we become aware to the rhythm of each of the areas of our life, where in my health am I? Am I emerging? Am I flourishing? Am I dissolving? Where am I? Where am I in my career? Am I emerging? Am I flourishing? Am I dissolving? And be present with each one of those things. When you're emerging, it brings a feeling of hope and ecstasy, doesn't it? It's like when you fall in love. That's an emerging feeling. When you're flourishing, you're feeling good about yourself. And when you're dissolving, you're in pain. Be with all of those things. That's the surrender that we're talking about in this life. You know, when the river goes, sees a boulder, it doesn't get mad at the boulder, doesn't swear at the boulder. It just goes around the boulder. The leaf doesn't hang on to the tree. It just floats off when the wind comes. That's the kind of surrender that we're talking about today. I invite you to find one single thought that you want to let go of and surrender it. Just surrender it to the universe. My thought is, I'm going to surrender that I don't have enough time to do everything I want to do. That's going to be my thought. I'm going to surrender that this week. I have enough time. I don't know what it is for you, but celebrate Bodhi Day. Celebrate the light that you are. Celebrate enlightenment itself by finding one little thought and letting it go that doesn't serve you anymore. The third one is stop comparing yourself. You cannot be enlightened if you continue to compare yourself with other people. Some of you have heard me talk about the land of Ur. Get out of the land of Ur. That land that says, I want to be bigger. I want to be bigger in this life than somebody else. I want to be brighter. I want to be richer. I want to be smarter. I want to be skinnier. I want to be taller. I want to be hipper. I'm already hipper. I want to be happier. So get out of that land of Ur. I want to be happy. Not Ur, than somebody else. See, and here's what happens. We not only do it to ourselves, but then we start dating people. And we want them to be hipper and happier and have their teeth be whiter and all of that. We want somebody else to have or then we marry them. And now we're really in trouble because we're really starting to err, not only ourselves, but them. Honey, I'd be enlightened if you would just have a little more or have a little less back here. I'd be really enlightened if you'd do that. See, then we start having kids with them, and then we're really in trouble because then we're really comparing. And we start not only looking at our own kids, but then we start comparing them to our friends' kids. Have you ever done that? Oh, my friends' kids are getting in the right college and mine aren't, or my kids are on the baseball team and mine didn't make it. Then we're really in hell. Stop comparing. There's no enlightenment in comparing, because remember, the purpose of enlightenment is to find out who you are underneath all of that ego. Well, when the Buddha was complete, or not complete, but when he got up off the Bodhi tree, part of his teaching of enlightenment was 4 things, the 4 noble truths. The first noble truth is there is suffering in this life. It's very important that we understand that the Buddha did not say all life is suffering. He never said that. He never wanted any of us to believe it. He said what we all know because we've all experienced it. There is some suffering in this life. The second thing is that all suffering comes from attachment. Now, he never said you shouldn't be attached to anybody, ever, 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 or anything. He never said attachment was bad. What he was saying is, if you become attached and it goes away, you should let it go with love. Not that you should never be attached, but that when that attachment is complete and it moves on. our work is to let it go with grace and ease and release it in love. And the third one is that there is an answer. There is an answer. And the fourth one is the answer is the eightfold path. Now, I don't have time today to even swim past the eightfold path, but I want to invite you to get today or tomorrow or someday soon, get on the internet, review the eightfold path. You all think you know the eightfold path because you've heard it. You don't know it. Probably. Maybe there's some Buddhists in here who know it, but most of us, I don't know it. And I study this a lot. Get on there and review it. And here's what you'll find. The Eightfold Path often starts with the word right. You have to have right speech, right thinking, okay? We don't like that in here. Oof. We don't like the right, wrong stuff, see? So I want you to change it. Change the word right to successful. We need you to have successful speech, successful thinking. You see the difference? But get on the internet and just review it. Spend even 10 minutes just reviewing the Eightfold Path and ask yourself, how am I doing with my right speech? How much negative talk am I doing? How am I doing with this or that or the other thing, the 8 things? And I promise you that if you do that, you will find something that will shift for you specifically, on something you have in your life right now. Maybe you have a difficult relationship with a family member, or maybe there's something at work that's bothering you, or maybe you're worried about money, or whatever it is. If you get on that and you spend just 10 minutes today looking at it, it will hold some powerful nourishment for you in those areas. So let's take this message into prayer, knowing that there's only one power. It's the power of love. That power that runs through us right now. It's the power that reminds us to say, thank you. Thank you, music. Thank you, Justin, for doing the sound. Thank you, practitioners. Thank you, band. Thank you, ushers. Thank you, hot dog people. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, people who are working with the kids. Thank you. It also reminds us to take time for ourselves, to set in intention the kind of life we want to live for ourselves and for others. Because the universe always says yes. The presence always says yes. I give thanks for that. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.